the other There Can Only Be Five, the list that is also going to be a two-parter. And so this week's There Can Only Be Five was how did I word
the
this?
most perfect casting of characters in a movie.
Yes, like the
most perfectly cast characters.
Who is cast perfect for a movie? Or I kind of looked at it more, and maybe our list will be way different because of how I was looking at it, even though I was the one that came up with this topic. I was thinking more in lines of like someone who played a role that is like who they are. Like that role is that person, and I can't see anybody else in it.
I'm not going to, so I'm going to tell you how I did mine before you go. So you know ours are going to be different.
Okay.
I did the casting that I thought was the most accurate to the character that they were cast as. So I'm going to go into more detail before I start my list. So I don't have original characters on my list. I have like they're either from comic books or they're literary or they're from some other media.
Okay, we went a way different route, but I like that. I think this is going to be an interesting.
So I'll go into more detail like when I do my list.
As we're going through it. Okay. Yep. Wow, this is all over the place. I can't believe I had done this list like 16 times and pulled it out, reshuffled some things.
It's a tough list.
It is a tough list. And so I'm going to start with my honorable mentions of perfectly cast for a role, or in my eyes, like they were this character and I can't see them as anything else other than them.
Okay.
My first honorable mention, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator. I can't see him as anybody other than Terminator. He was that role. And then my second honorable mention, Captain Jack Sparrow. I don't think it's hard to see him in any other role than I mean, he's played in obviously other movies. Johnny Depp's been in a million movies, but like he is Captain Jack Sparrow. And then my last honorable mention was Frodo Baggins. I don't think anyone could, I mean, that's like the only role that he played. Like, am I blanking on Frodo Baggins? Elijah Wood. Like he can't be in any other movie since then without us that's Frodo. Like Frodo is who he is. So
yeah,
the vibe our list is going to be very, very different.
It is going to be very different. And it's funny, like as much as, and I'm just sorry, I'm hopping in, but like as much as you talk about Frodo, I think you're dead right on that one. You think about Sean Astin as Sam, like he's so good as Sam, but like he's Rudy to me.
Yeah, same. He's Rudy to me too.
Or he's Mike from the Goonies. Like as much as he's Sam, he's as much those. Which I think, like that's something to say about Sean Astin. Like, that's good for him that he's not forever Samwise
Gamgee.
And he's not forever Rudy Rudiger. And he's not forever Mike from the Goonies. Like he has multiple iconic roles. It's funny.
You just reminded me of that like GIF or meme from like when Stranger Things came out, and they're like when the kids are like tweeting.
I was about ready to say that. I was about ready to say that because they show him in 50 First Dates where he's in the mesh tank top, and I can't. But he's Doug from 50 First Dates, and I think the meme said like
it just goes down and down.
Yeah, Sam didn't cross the mountains of Mordor so he could be remembered as Bob and Doug, and it's you're dead on though.
Another right under it that says like Rudy didn't go to junior college for like 3 years so he could finally start and get a sack for Notre Dame. Like it's freaking awesome.
But when I watched Lord of the Rings with the kids not that long ago, Desmond said, "Oh, it's Bob from Stranger Things," and I backhanded him and said, "Don't you dare!" No, I didn't, but it's. I started.
You thought about it.
I started laughing because I'm like, "That's exactly that freaking meme. It's exactly right." Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's I honestly I did have all three of those were in my top 5 at one point and then had been moved out because as I was going through, I'm like, fuck, I gotta have so and so in this because that person emulates him and only him. All right, number 5, like most perfectly cast character. This actor is this character. It's tough to see him as anything else. Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. And when I say that, I'm primarily speaking about Iron Man 1. I know he plays Iron Man great throughout the whole entire series, but that first Iron Man movie with him he was so perfectly cast and so good at that role that it literally kicked off a like 40 movie and show multi-billion-dollar business because he was so good at Tony Stark.
If he wasn't Tony Stark, the MCU is not what it is.
Yes, it was so freaking amazing. Also, little Rudy Easter egg, Jon Favreau, who was the director and writer, and also obviously he was
Happy Hogan.
His Alfred. He was in Rudy, by the way. He was Rudy's best friend.
You're right.
Okay, let's jump to number 4. Most perfectly cast. Nobody saw it coming. Everyone was annoyed when they first announced this guy was going to play this character. And then the trailer came out and people watched the trailer 700 times before the movie came out. And then he won an Oscar for it. Heath Ledger, the Joker, the Dark Knight. He was made for that role. I know like he's in a million other roles and like 10 Things I Hate About You and stuff like that. But like in A Knight's Tale, by the way, shout out, great movie if you've never seen it.
Great movie.
Is Alan Tudyk's in that as well, by the way?
He is. And
look at all these.
And Paul Bettany plays Chaucer.
Yes. Look at us.
Vision himself. Jarvis himself.
Yes. Dude, what a freaking underrated classic. A Knight's Tale. Fucking badass.
Making a note.
Look at us just.
When we don't have new movies in 2024, we're watching A Knight's Tale.
You've seen A Knight's Tale, right?
I own A Knight's Tale on DVD.
I thought you were about to say that. What's that? Or I've never seen it. Let's write a note because we need to watch it. I was going to walk over across the way here to your house and slap some sense into you.
Nope, that's a you need to see this movie.
Yes, because it's so goddamn good. Heath Ledger, he's the main character in that, by the way. He's great. Sir Lance, what's it? No, it's something from Lechtenberg.
I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
Anyways, all right. Number 4, Heath Ledger, Joker, The Dark Knight, perfectly cast movie. Number 3, this man has played this character in a shit ton of movies, in a ton of iterations. Even when they swap out every character with different actors and do a whole new universe, they still bring him back for this. We're about to get another one of him. Mr. Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. My Lord. Is anyone more perfect for a role than Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine? Like, I know he's been in a ton of other movies and he's really come on the scene. I mean, obviously, it's not really new anymore, but like when he originally came and played the Wolverine in the original X-Men movie, he was a nobody at the time. And he was so good that he essentially stole the show and then kind of became the main character, the main actor in most of the movies. They put him in all the series. He got his own solo films. They did some old school, like one-off, old Logan was fucking awesome. We're about to get him in his blue and yellow. Finally, at the end of it, we get the original look. He is Wolverine. Like, can we say Hugh Jackman's anything other than Wolverine?
No, I'm going to talk about that more when I get to my list.
Perfect.
He's not on my list.
Oh,
but I'm going to explain why.
You scoundrel!
No, you'll understand. You'll understand. You'll understand.
Okay, I just splashed water all over my face. Giggity. For number 1, I've got a tie, and I felt that this was the right thing to do and not have one of them in as an honorable mention. I wanted to have them as tied. So tied, and maybe this will be confusing because one of them is one actor and two different roles, and one of them is a separate actor and a separate role.
Okay.
So 3 total characters are tied for number 1.
I think I know what you're talking about, but yes, I think I know.
Number 1, tied for number 1 as like the perfect cast, best cast actor for a role. I can't see him as either only one of these two. Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Like, could we talk about like that man was made for those roles? And I know he's been in a million movies, but like no one could have played Han Solo like he played Han Solo.
Yep.
And no one could have played freaking Indiana Jones like Harrison Ford played those two characters. Like perfectly cast. And then I've got him tied with Black Panther Chadwick Boseman. I know that might be kind of way off the radar, but man, like
it's not.
Was
but
way off the radar. But
not
like
who I expected you to say.
He was so good as Black Panther and made that whole like that him as that character like drew me back into really being interested in like Marvel stuff. I freaking loved him, and obviously he passed away, which is shitty.
Horrible.
And makes total sense of why the franchise went in the direction it did. But like truly, I don't have as much or really any interest in that kind of world and story because he's not Black Panther. Like if they were to bring someone in else to play the character, it wouldn't feel like he is Black Panther. Like when you see him in public, you want Wakanda forever. Like you just want to do that, you know? But I had him tied because you know what, based on things that have happened and him really owning a role, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, Indiana Jones, Han Solo, Harrison Ford, they're tied for number 1 for me. So Jesus. That's my list. It's all over the place.
It's
We're gonna have a totally different list.
It is. We have one.
Oh, we do.
We have one, and and again, it's because of the way I did my list. So this is what I'm going to preface. I'm going to preface this a couple of different ways. Okay.
First off, all the ways you need to.
I changed my list multiple times, and because there was too many characters that I was like, I have to have on this list, and so that's when I set my own rules, which I tend to do when I make these lists, right? So I had at one point at number 2, I knew who I wanted at number 1 the entire time. At number 2, at one point, I had Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. I removed him from the list because he is Captain Jack Sparrow because that's an original character. So I went with when we said most perfect casting decision, I wanted to do a character that already existed, either in comic book or TV or movies or books, that they cast somebody and I felt like it was perfection. Okay. Yeah. So that's why I changed my list. Now, I didn't have Hugh Jackman on my list. Hugh Jackman to me is Wolverine and will always be Wolverine. I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I don't want that to get... I love Heath Ledger as Joker, okay? Heath Ledger's Joker is not comic book Joker. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally.
That's why I didn't put him on the list. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is his own version of Wolverine. If you have read Marvel Comics...
Good point.
Wolverine is a different character than the way Hugh Jackman portrays it. Not that Hugh Jackman's wrong, not that he's necessarily a better version. He's just not. Okay, so I'm going to use this. This is one of my honorable mentions. Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier is, to me, near perfect casting. He's on my list as an honorable mention. Okay?
Yeah.
Because, like, when you're casting Professor X, it's like Patrick Stewart's it's like a dead giveaway.
And then that's Professor X.
That's what I mean. So that's the way I did my list, is like that. Like I couldn't see anybody else doing that role, and I think they took this role that existed in other media and made it like they nailed it in whatever Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a weird. Those are my weird rules. So anyway, I said I had Patrick Stewart as an honorable mention. My other honorable mention, because I had to throw him on here, was Matthew Lillard as Shaggy.
Oh my God, dude! Yes,
because
he is
Shaggy. He is Casey Kasem, original Scooby-Doo version of Shaggy in human form, and he freaking nails it. So I had to throw that on there. So
I do feel like, I mean, I feel like the way we went about this list, though different rules, still feels very like on.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna I don't think anybody I'm gonna name on my list you're gonna be like, what? No, you're gonna be like, oh, totally get it. Yeah. Just like I did with yours, right? Like totally get it. Number 5, I had Henry Cavill as Superman, which I think he nailed Superman. I think Christopher Reeve nailed Superman too, but like Henry is the look, the size, the build, the compassion, the hope, the humanity, all those things that I think Superman needs to be. And I think he nailed it 100%. Right?
Yeah,
like
I agree with that.
I think that's, and I was surprised he wasn't on your list. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I thought about him, and then maybe this is kind of fucked up. As you know, when we do these lists, if there's ever things that we've talked about a lot,
you don't like putting
even though I know they are there or should be, like maybe I should have mentioned him as my honorable mention, but I was like, we talked a lot about Henry Cavill and Superman, so it's like,
don't worry,
I'm not gonna put fucking Judge Dredd.
I was gonna say Carl Urban's not on my list.
I can't put Carl Urban on any list for the next fucking
6 years
episodes.
And number 4, I had J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Perfect. That, if I would have thought of him, he would have been on my list.
Perfect.
He is perfect.
Yeah,
he is him.
He's better at J. Jonah Jameson than J. Jonah Jameson is. He is nailed it.
They literally, like, it's kind of like Wolverine and Hugh Jackman. Like, he's so good at that character that they just use him as that character in multiple iterations.
Voice acting, they bring him back into a different universe, and it's still him 100%.
Yes.
So he's my number 4. At number 3, Ian McKellen is Gandalf.
Dude.
Like, you were talking about Frodo, and I was like, Frodo's great. Ian McKellen to me is Gandalf, will always be Gandalf. Talk about somebody that like has this huge long stage and acting career, stage and screen, and they get this role when they're now this old man, and like he's Gandalf, and he will. Dude. I mean, I know he's old, but he's Gandalf and will always be Gandalf, and he's great.
So when I originally did my list, Frodo was at number 3 or number 2, and I moved him to my honorable mention. But I moved someone out of my honorable mention to put Frodo there, and it was Ian McKellen as Gandalf. And so when you started talking about Samwise Gamgee, I almost just chimed in and said, like, literally every character from that movie, I only see like Aragorn, like he is Aragorn,
is fucking Orlando Bloom,
fucking Legolas, like
John Rhys Davies is Gimli. Like, I get it.
That 100%. Whole movie was perfectly cast.
Perfectly cast.
Characters.
Yes.
Anyways, continue. Love that. I'm with that. I agree.
So my top 2, and really I know, so like I've got comic book characters all over this list because that's how I think, that's the way most of this podcast is, right? Number 1 and number 2, I think are I think they were number 1 and they were number 2, and I don't think it's close. Like, that's how I did my list. Number 2 is Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. He is Deadpool. Like, you can tell when somebody loves a role and wants to do it right. He is like iconic in that role. Like, talk about a character that's so hard to get off the pages and onto the screen, and he killed it. Especially after the first time he was cast as Deadpool.
Yes, he got a second chance and he could actually be what he wanted and do the real thing.
The best part of that movie is when he's at the beginning, he plays Wade Wilson. And and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you see the end and you're like, what the shit is this? Like how much did they ruin Deadpool? Anyway, so Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Number 1, the only one we both had on our list, Robert Downey Jr. He is Iron Man, and he will always be Iron Man.
Yeah. When he said it at the end of the first movie, that was Robert Downey Jr. talking about himself being Iron Man.
He was right. And he was right.
He was right. Yes,
he was right. Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. He will always be Iron Man. He can win Oscars for Oppenheimer and doesn't matter. He's going to be Iron Man until the day he dies. And then he'll be Iron Man until nobody remembers who Iron Man is.
I totally loved your list. It's great. I loved your list.
There's people that, like, we can talk about all these movies and how great people were cast. Like listen, Arnold is the Terminator, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about casting Batman and Michael Keaton and Christian Bale and like how great they are as Batman, but like it's not 100% as much as I think that character should be. Like if you took a mix of, like, if you took, like, I don't know, I think Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne is really good, and like Christian Michael Keaton's Batman's really, like it's almost like you got to mix some of these guys together to get the perfect Bruce Wayne Batman mix.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's why it's hard for me. Like you could say, like, if you compare, like, if we're talking Batman again, I think Heath Ledger's Joker is better than Jack Nicholson's 100%. That's my opinion. I know there's people that think Jack's better. Jack's closer to the Joker.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think either one of them's great at like nailed it. Nobody's nailed the Joker yet.
Yeah. In terms of like being accurate to
the comic book, I don't think anybody's touched it yet.
Yeah.
I think that'll be interesting to see if somebody finally gets that right. And I'm not saying they did it wrong. Obviously, we've had two guys win Oscars for playing the Joker, and they're both amazing, but neither one of them is the Joker.
Okay, so I didn't mention this, and I should have. I don't know how. It was one of the things I missed when I was talking about Batman: The Audio Files.
Yeah.
The one of the reasons why it's so good is because the Joker is Brent Spiner, which is also Data from Star Trek. Bro, his Joker is fucking awesome. It's very like scary, but like they have him as like Bobo the Clown is like there's a commercial for Bobo the Clown, and like so they do a lot of that, which you can tell that it's probably going to be the Joker. He's like scary, but he's super old school comic book funny, but then he's like Heath Ledger crazy.
Yeah.
Like really good. So anyways, not to circle back, but his Joker was awesome.
That's great. So listen, there's lots of awesome Jokers, don't get me wrong, but like the closest one I can think of to ever getting close to the actual like Joker in the comic books, it's Mark Hamill.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
that's I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Like
that's actually a good point. That he nailed the Joker.
He did.
I would say
he really
nailed the Joker.
If I would have had 100% if I would have done with voice actors, like him and Kevin Conroy are Batman and the Joker
for sure. I was just gonna say
there's no doubt.
Nice. What a great list.
Yeah, a great category. Like, so we talked about that's going to be part one. Because part two, should we say what it is, or? Yeah, let's do it.
Part two is going to be worst casted actors for a role in a movie.
Yeah.
So basically the same thing, but opposite. Like someone who's so poorly casted for a role that it ruined the movie for you. Even if maybe the movie was good, maybe it was bad, but
I'm with you. And the way I'm going to tell you now, prefacing it now, the way I'm going to do my list is exactly how I did this one. I'm going to go with somebody who is nothing like the character
that they're
portraying. So, I mean,